How's it going, fellow Kin 562 classmates and Dr. D? Today we're going to have a presentation on my client and everything that I've done so far in the CAPS. And the first place we're going to start at is the health and movement assessment. So what I did with my client is a FMS, or functional movement screening. I'm fortunate enough at my job that we have FMSs on hand, so I didn't have to custom make my own. And basically what I used the FMS kit, or when I used the FMS kit, I saw a couple different things. Hip stability, that was something that kind of needed work when she was doing the hurdle test. My client was a little bit wonky in terms of the balance portion, and then there's a slight mobility. She was kind of bowing out her hips a little bit too much, but otherwise I would harken it back to more of the stability issue, is trying to open up herself a little bit so that she can get over the hurdle. So it was one of the biggest things that I kind of noted. And when we did the push-up test, another big thing was her upper spine tended to extend forward, and the elbow started to kind of flare out a little bit. And when we got to the test, it was a little bit on the harder side of the repetition range, where her form started to deteriorate and fail. So that was big. That was a big indicator for me that she needed to strengthen her upper body. Everything else overall, just slight form corrections here and there. The client did very good on the squat test, the inline lunge test, and everything else that was kind of involved with the FMS was very, very good for the most part. So we kind of had a good basis to start on, but definitely some room for improvement. And during this, how I set it up is an upper body lower split for her exercises being prescribed. One of the biggest things that I want to focus on, and she wanted to focus on, was overall strength and hypertrophy and leaning out. And that's something that she wanted to do within the past 4 to 6 months, which I had to clarify in my program, which you'll see in a little bit. It was a highlighted section. But definitely strengthen the lower half, and in the upper half, especially the upper half with the push-up test, is something I recommended on my own. So a different mixture of big movements, definitely. For upper body, I wanted to really focus on a push going forward, a push going up, and a pull going back. And then for legs, I wanted to focus on something like a squat movement, a hip hinge movement, and a one leg or a lunge movement. So those 3 variations for upper body and those 3 variations for lower body, respectively. It's going to be an overall 4-day split, with increasing percentages throughout the week. So I'll kind of explain that to give you guys a little bit more visual as we see on at least the first week. So there it is, right there highlighted. It was wants it to be done within 4 to 6 month period. She is a novice lifter, so she doesn't really go to the gym as often, but she is well trained. She used to do a lot of dancing and sports when she was younger. So the day 1 is going to be the upper, and we focus on those big 3 movements again. It's dumbbell row, dumbbell bench press, and dumbbell unilateral shoulder press. Why I picked a unilateral versus a bilateral or isolateral movement, I just wanted to focus a little bit more on one shoulder at a time for now, since she is a little bit on the newer side. And I picked dumbbell for isolateral movements just because I don't want to build any more discrepancies or one side being stronger than the other type situation with the client, as she is right-handed, and she is a little bit newer. So I just wanted to help even everything out for the most part. And then we had our bicep curls, dumbbell skull crushers, dumbbell reverse flies to kind of hit every single angle for the most part, with rotator cuffs, the tricep and bicep. And we started off this week with 70% on the big movements and 60 to 65% on the smaller movements in between that. And then the bigger movements will get 8 repetitions, and the smaller movements will get 10. The goblet squats, on the other hand, and the dumbbell RDLs and the dumbbell weighted lunges, they're at 70% with 8, 10, and 10 respectively, because these are going to be a little bit more on the harder side of things, but definitely a good easy movements to kind of go into for the most part. And then on the second days, the exercises are kind of changed a little bit. the pressing movements and the rowing movements are changed for unilateral dumbbell rows, inclined dumbbell bench press, lateral raises, dumbbell kickbacks, hammer curls, and Lou raises, which is a fantastic movement I really like. These are more focused on the posterior side of things, but definitely still on the lighter end at 65 and 60 to 65% in terms of intensity. And then the exercises for the legs is another variation. Dumbbell sumo squats, a little bit wider to kind of help with the posterior chain and get a little bit more hip opening going on. Hip thrusts with dumbbells at a unilateral leg press to kind of change up the exercises for lunges. Instead of doing lunges again, we'll give like a variation here. And it is an easier variation because it is the second day. And then the second day for legs is more focused on the posterior chain as well too, with leg curls and abduction machine to get the glutes and the hamstrings. While the first lower half day is more the abduction muscles, or adduction muscles, adduction, plus the quadriceps. So this is a very, very comprehensive upper and lower body split that I do with clients for the most part. And it's something I always will give to novices because it is easy to follow, and it does kind of have a structure of the bigger muscle movements first, and then it gets smaller and smaller and more specific throughout the week, or throughout the day, excuse me. Okay, and then any other highlighted changes, I did forget on my end to add the rest times. 1 minute for the bigger exercises, 30 to 45 seconds for something that's a little bit smaller. With progressions, the second week would probably be 70 to 75% for the bigger movements, and then the next week after that is going to be 75 to 80, and then the next week after that, the fourth week, will be 80 to 85%. Probably somewhere closer to the 90 if we really want to test strength. And on the second days, we'll kind of be in that range as well, to a 5 to 7% increase per week, just so we don't tax the client too much, and we kind of give an ease of doing the actual prescribed exercises without jumping in with too big of a jump, or giving a client more of a difficult exercise when they're a little bit new, or a difficult intensity when they're a little bit new. Alrighty, so these are the exercise techniques. Here are the links below. For the lower body, we did squats. We redid the goblet squats. So we made sure that her head wasn't looking too far down or too far up. We wanted to have a more neutral spine for this one. And we adjusted the weight where it was held. So originally it was a little bit uncomfortable for her, so we made her hold it right here, close to her chest, and made sure that nothing else was too uptight. We're not holding it too far flexed or too far forward like this. We want it to be slightly a bit closer to us, and let the weight rest on the chest. Otherwise, there wasn't anything else crazy that we needed to adjust with this exercise. For the upper body, we chose the bench press, or the flat bench press for this one, or the floor press, excuse me. And we just made changes to shoulder positioning. We just made sure that we're not at the 180 degrees, we're right below it, and that our chest is up. And our cueing, she was making squares, which she was pressing and then connecting the weights together at the top, which I didn't want to do. We kind of fixed it a little bit in the first video, but in the second video, we made sure that we hammered it down flat before we actually did the exercises. And just made a quick change to the cue, making sure that I told her make triangles, not squares, for this exercise. And also I kept my hand right at the top, and I told her to meet in the middle, just like this. So one of my favorite cues to do for this exercise, and definitely something that works with my clients as well. Righty. And then finally, application and faith integration. So one of my biggest things that I see a lot is just changing cueing styles. It just depends from client to client. Some people are a little bit newer, but not all of us are kinesiology majors or have experience in the gym. So definitely changing some cueing styles. For example, one of my favorite cues to use is the squeezing orange technique. And basically for a row, for instance, I cue my clients in telling them to squeeze their shoulder blades together and pretending that there's an orange between their shoulder blades. And every time they squeeze their back together, they're squeezing the shoulder blades and they're squeezing the orange to make orange juice. It's a funny little silly way of doing it, but it does definitely give some more visual cues to the client, and they can kind of picture it a little bit better versus like, I'm going to need you to retract your scapula and you're going to have to flex at the rhomboids or something like that. Something that the clients don't typically understand, but giving them that cue kind of gets them a little bit there, and definitely giving more change to that would be beneficial for me in the long term. To kind of get the faith integration portion of things, these two quotes kind of go hand in hand for me, at least. And that's, share with the Lord's people who are in need, practice hospitality, it's Romans 12:13, and do not withhold good from those whom it is due when it is your power to act, Proverbs 3:27. We as kinesiologists, or scientists in this field, or educators, or coaches, or personal trainers, we have all of this knowledge to give to these people. Why keep it to ourselves? Why try to keep it to our friends? Like, we need to share this information with everybody. I think it creates better exercise practitioners in the long term, and it's definitely giving us a lot more freedom to teach whoever and whomever, because this knowledge does not need to be kept for us. We need to share this knowledge that we've learned, and definitely it makes us feel good, yes, but it also is something that will kind of help be beneficial for the long term for everybody. And this final quote is, let us become wary in doing good. For the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give it up. And basically it's just, paying it forward again. Like, I think all three of these quotes kind of mesh together, which is really funny. But definitely, again, using this knowledge to teach people, not for the sake of just, notoriety and fame and being this popular social media influencer who has all this knowledge. Like, this is not something that we should be doing. Good if you want to pursue that, but definitely isn't something that, with our knowledge, should be looking forward to. And I think the application of our knowledge should be to teach people and to help educate people and enjoy educating people, not for the notoriety of fame. And I think it's what I see now as a discrepancy within the Instagram field or the social media field in general, and it's something maybe we should kind of pivot towards, especially if we're in the kinesiology field and we're understanding. Marketing is a big part of things, yes, but marketing for the sake of marketing isn't something that we should be doing as kinesiologists, as scientists, as educators, as coaches, as personal trainers. We should be doing marketing to kind of educate people and tell people, yes, we are qualified, yes, you can trust us, and yes, we're going to give you the quality information you're going to use in your future trading. So that is the conclusion of my presentation, and these are the references. This is the only reference I have for this presentation. Excuse me. And thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it.